we actually rotate who owns the meeting each week. And it's their job to put together the agenda. It's their job to potentially find guest speakers. It's their job to prep the page. And they are in charge of facilitating. There's two reasons for that. One is to make sure that all of them get a chance to practice their facilitation and presentation skills. The second piece of this is it actually keeps the meeting from going stale. And we have a really great play on the Atlassian team playbook. It's called the ritual reset. And I think this is something that's worth doing quarterly across your teams to look at the meetings and figure out, like, is this meeting actually serving us? What is the goal of the meeting? Is it connection? Is it information sharing? Is it sparring? Is it brainstorming? Does it change each week? That really helped. And now having the different folks rotate means that everyone across the team is able to share and facilitate, and it doesn't end up just being me talking at them, which I can do that in Slack. I can make them a Loom. I can write them a Confluence page. Like, I don't need to just stand up and talk in the meeting. So those are a couple things that have helped. The ritual reset, to just make it an open conversation about what the meeting should be and how it's supposed to help us. Rotating the meeting owners, and then deciding if weekly or biweekly is the right cadence.
I'm your host. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Let me pull up the chat right here. We got some people here. We got everybody rolling in. So if you can hear me now, we're getting a couple minutes. It's the top of the, about to be the top of the hour here. I'm in Vermont. We've seen the sun for the first time in, weeks now. Somebody told me that it was 23 weekends in a row without the sun, but we had it this weekend. I had more burgers and hot dogs than anyone should realistically have in a weekend. So, but we're back. We do these Exit 5 live sessions once or twice a month. And the goal is to bring in some interesting marketers, marketing leaders, people that can help you do your job better. And what I love about these sessions is that the people who come and hang out, they're here for a reason. You took an hour out of your day to come hang out with us, and we don't take that lightly. So I'm excited for an awesome discussion with Ashley and Molly in a minute. But first, if you can hear me, can you just go in the chat and let me know where you are, where you're writing in from? There we go. I see the homie Allison is here in the Carolinas somewhere. Sunny day for Jesse Feldman in New York. Brooklyn stand up. Emily's here. Catherine's in Boise. Brittany's in San Diego. Allison is in Asheville. That's right. Jen Bradley, Northeast Wisconsin. I got to get out to Wisconsin has amazing golf. I don't know if you know that. Small audience that would care about that here. Devin, what's up, Devin? Boston in the house. Ava's in Indianapolis. Derek. Okay, last question before I bring in our speakers. Obviously, everything is working great. We record this. Everything's gonna be recorded. I'm gonna take all your questions. I have an amazing list of questions that I want to get through with our panel today, but also this is about you, and we're here because we want to bring in your questions. And so I will prioritize them. But the best way to do that is use the Q&A feature, put your questions in there. We can upvote them and we'll get to the most popular ones. But then also put your opinions in chat. Like, since you're here, I want you to be active. I want you to be involved in the chat. I want you to be asking questions, helping each other out, share what you're doing in your job. That's what always makes this great. And then my last question is, just tell me in the chat. I'm just curious, like, why did you attend, right? This session today is how to lead a high functioning marketing org, avoid meeting overload, fix communication bottlenecks, and ship meaningful work. We have Ashley Faus, head of lifecycle marketing at Atlassian, and Dr. Molly Sands, head of the teamwork lab at Atlassian. And we're going to break down how today's best marketing leaders are reclaiming their time and building more effective, better aligned teams in the process. But why are you here? Are you struggling with, hey, DHD's in the building? What's up? I want to know why did you come to this session today? What is it about internal communication and leading a marketing org that made you want to come and pop into this session? Give me that in chat. And maybe Allison want to bring out our guests while we let people put their answers to that in chat. Nice. There we go. There's Ashley. There's Molly.
Morning for me, I guess. Good afternoon.
Morning for you. Yeah. It's
for East Coast folks.
I got the middle of the day here. So, all right. I asked a question and nobody answered it. So, oh no, here we go. I just had to scroll. Too many meetings, scaling a team, want to find the best way forward. Oh man, these are here's Megan, spending 15 to 20 hours a week in meetings and I can't get actually work done. Team of one, so want to build a strong foundation for a high functioning marketing team. Floyd has 47 meetings per week and have to do all my work after hours. Like, man, how much does that come up? So I think we're in the...
I, like, clockwise, accidentally shamed me multiple times, like, how did you spend your week? And I'm like, not effectively. So this is, I feel all of that in the chat.
All right, perfect. Well, our goal today is to hopefully help you unblock some of that stuff. We have two amazing guests, and I'm gonna let you each introduce yourself. So let's do Ashley and then Molly, and then I'll kick us off in the right direction.
Sure. My name is Ashley. I am a marketer, writer, and speaker by day, and a singer, actor, and fitness fiend by night.
What is your preferred in your fiendness of fitness? What is your preferred method?
Mostly bodybuilder style workouts with a touch of high intensity interval training. So I did some, my husband calls it my bebops this
Love
morning, which
that.
is like jumping jacks and burpees. So
Love that. All right, good. Let's go. Let's lift some weights today. Okay.
mhm.
All right,
Full
Dr.
bodies.
Molly, you're in the house. Who are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Molly. I lead the teamwork lab at Atlassian. So I have a group of behavioral scientists and researchers who study teamwork and design new ways of working for teams all over the world to help with things like having to do all of your work at night because you're stuck in meetings.
All right.
I
So,
am also a big high intensity interval training
oh yeah.
fan. We haven't
Okay.
talked about this before.
What's your preferred pain method of choice?
Oh, I honestly love it all. I've done truly like everything from marathons to like lots of ollie lifting kind of stuff.
All
So
right, good. We got the right crew here today. Love that. Okay. So first, one thing that stood out to me that I think this is super interesting. I don't know if you all caught that, but Atlassian has a PhD psychologist on the staff, which is super interesting. Molly, I'm sorry that I already asked you this behind the scenes, but can you just kind of take us through like why would what led to Atlassian making that type of investment? What is your role there, and maybe how does that relate to the topic that we're going to dig into today?
yeah. So most of my career I spent studying human behavior. I've done a lot of research on marketing and products, but specifically really thinking about organizations and teams. And at Atlassian, we have a policy called Team Anywhere, which means that our employees can choose where they work from every day. We run 12 global offices, but we have people all over the world. Many of them don't go to offices very often and spend most of their time working from home. And it's about 40% of our staff is close to an office, and everyone else is not. And so we knew that we really needed to think differently about how we work and how we communicate and share information, how we do meetings. And so as Atlassian was really thinking about what does collaboration for the future look like in this much more distributed and AI forward reality. They wanted to build a team to figure this out so that we can help our customers and so we could adopt best practices and really make sure that we were doing things in the most effective way. Think a lot of that ties in nicely to what we're talking about today here, around meetings and how do we share information? How do we lead great teams? And what does that look like now in this modern reality of work?
And Ashley, you've been there for 7 years. I'm just curious what your why this is a topic that is in the sweet spot for Atlassian, and just your experience of somebody who spent their career in marketing, being able to relate to a bunch of the comments already in the chat.
One thing that is interesting that Molly just said, which I think we'll get into once we start talking about the questions, but I think it dovetails nicely with Atlassian from a brand marketing perspective, and then also from like a tooling and a human behavior perspective, the idea of sharing information versus connection. And oftentimes we muddle those two things. And especially as more teams have become distributed, we're trying to stay aligned across time zones, across different team types. If you work closely with a product management team because you are a product marketer, being on time with your launches, being in lockstep in terms of what the market needs and what the products that you're building require from a time and investment standpoint. But then also having that trust with your partners, there's a lot of layers to that. It's not just, do I know when launch day is? It's, do I trust my PM that in fact launch day is going to be when they say it is, right? And then on the PM side, do they trust their marketing team to actually get that message out there effectively? Not just will they put a message out, but will the message be effective? So there's a ton of trust and rapport that has to happen, not just alignment from an information standpoint. And I think that's a distinction both on the marketing side in terms of what we have to build with our audience, and also on the internal team side and what we have to build across time zones, geos, tooling, and overall communication.
All right, so let's start with just thinking about just internal. I would say internal communication with marketing um, to start. One of the things that I think it's rare to find a company where the marketing team is not sharing what they're doing across the org. But a lot of times, what I hear is, "Man, we're sending." We're sending Loom videos, we're sending decks, we're sharing these asynchronous updates, we're posting in the channel in Slack, we're at here, we're doing all this stuff, but people are still not sure what marketing is working on, or there's maybe too much information to process. And so, me and as a marketing person in my former life, I've battled with like the send every sales doesn't know what we're doing, so you tell them, and then it's like then you go the other end of the spectrum. It's like, well, now there's too much. I don't know what to find. And so I'm curious if maybe we could start with like kind of just a standard operating playbook for communicating about your work in marketing, maybe common mistakes or pitfalls or best practices.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing is really starting with goals. I have really three principles. One is goals, one is transparency, and one is standardization, which sounds really lame, but is actually really helpful. So we want to start by anchoring everyone on what we're trying to do. And in too many companies, people just end up not really directly tying their work to the purpose. And that makes it really hard for everyone to sort through what information is actually relevant to them and what is not. So having a really transparent way that you share goals across your whole marketing organization and taking that from everything that applies to marketing as well as all your cross-functional partners all the way down to that team level and making that information easy for people to find is one of the first steps. And that really, really helps to drive alignment about what you're doing and why, and help people sort through how all the things you're sharing actually fit into that bigger picture. Anytime you're sharing information, it should be like, oh, why does this matter? Who should care about this? Why should they care about it? And you want to give that to people as directly as you can in every communication so that they can very quickly be like, oh, doesn't matter to me. Oh, actually, this is super, super important. And just helping with that filtering is such a critical skill and makes everyone want to work with you because then they know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I gotta build on that. So my
Yeah.
very first job, like the first time that I led a small marketing team, I was at this company, and every Friday we would have show and tell, where basically every team would go around and show what work they shipped that week, something they're proud of, a meaningful project. And when I got to this company, there was maybe 20 people there, and they were all engineers and designers. And so I was the first marketing person, and so they looked at me like I had six heads. And everybody wants to know, like, what the heck, what is marketing? What does this person do? He doesn't code, he doesn't design. I don't know what he does. And I remember I shared in show and tell that week, I shared, oh, the big project that I worked on this week was I wrote this 1,500 word blog post, and I showed it around the room, and everybody was like, okay. And what? And I didn't get roasted. I got roasted by the silence, and it was like nobody cared. And I was like, I spent 4 of my days writing this and researching this, and then I realized exactly what you said, which is I came back the next week and I said, hey, remember how I told you we wrote this article last week? Well, over the last week, we've gotten 6 backlinks to this article. This has increased we got no web. We used to have no website traffic. Now, 312 people visited our site this week. 6 of them converted. 2 of them took sales demos, and 1 people bought. And I literally saw the engineers in the room finally like light up and understand, like, oh wait, so you're telling me you did this thing, and that helped people find out about the thing that I built. And that was the moment that I learned how to basically explain everything that I did, not in the context of marketing, but like, here's why this matters for us as a company based on what we're working on. Ashley, as a veteran marketer in this space, I'm just curious if you've had a similar type of experience.
Yeah. And one thing that's counterintuitive, and I say this both from an audience standpoint and, whether that's internal or external, giving people the option not to buy. And in this case, it's the option to not pay attention.
Mm,
And so there's actually, from like a super tactical standpoint, one of our teams, I love how they do this in Slack. There's a bigger channel that is very helpful for folks to know what's going on. And so they'll literally say topic. Here's the 3-word topic, who it's relevant for, at mention Molly, at mention Dave, at mention Ashley, action requested, basically whatever the action is, and then context, whether it's bullet points, whether it's a Confluence page, whether it's a Loom, whatever. If I'm not tagged in that, that means I don't have to look at it. And so that means that when I am tagged, I need to look at it. If you tag me in everything or you at here in every single channel, that signals to me that you don't know me and you don't care about me.
People
It's
wouldn't do that. They
yeah,
don't.
and, like
They
same
would.
thing externally, right? Like you just blast things everywhere and you're like, bye, bye, bye. It signals that you do not care about the audience. You only care about yourself. If every single message I put in a channel is about me and for me and easiest for me, people assume that I don't care. And not only do they tune out the message, they start to tune me out. And that means if I show up in a channel, nobody pays attention to me because they know I don't respect them. So it's counterintuitive to actually narrow in the message even in a bigger channel, but it makes it so much easier, to Molly's point of who is this for? Why do they care? The other big thing I do from a managing up standpoint, it is not uncommon for my boss to say something, she'll Slack me and say, like, I know you shared this page with me. I can't find it, or remind me where this thing is. Like, I'm getting these questions from our CMO or something like that. And sure, I could just drop the page in for her that has all the context for everyone because it's a page that requires, needs to meet multiple audience needs. Instead, what I do is I say, here's the page. Here's the 3 highlights that you care about for her questions. And I will literally watch her, copy and paste those or put those things in the slides or repeat those things in meetings because I told her this is how to connect the dots. So
Mm.
that's the other thing. There's all of the context that someone can get. And then there's what is the information that they must have to take action. And I think that's something that, again, as marketers, the same way we have to cut through that noise externally, we have to do the same thing internally to say, if you need context and you want to go down the rabbit hole, here's the option to do that. Here's the highlights you actually care about to take action right this minute.
I'm a huge fan of the Brene Brown clear as kind principle
Mhm.
there, right? Just getting to the point, respect people's time, and give them, the option to opt in or opt out and make that.
Wait, can you explain for people who aren't familiar with Brene Brown and that kind of message? Can you just explain that real quick?
Yeah, yeah. It's this idea that clarity is actually a form of kindness to people. Just saying what you mean and saying it in, like a thoughtful but direct way is really helpful. Don't make people sort through to try to figure out what you actually meant. And as marketers, we're good at that, right? That is part of our jobs. But thinking about the ways that we interact with everyone internally too, from this perspective of just give them the information they need and it's going to be useful for them so they can move forward. And that is a way to be kind and respectful. And we really see that that makes people want to work with you more, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, so I love both of those things where I think it's like it needs to be your job. If I could translate some of this, it needs to be your job to like if everyone if you hear the signal that your boss or other people inside the company, despite Ashley sending, I don't want to put this on you. This is pretend Ashley, right?
It's okay. I'll take
Okay,
care
I
of it.
got you. All right, I got you. Despite Ashley sending, 58 Slack messages about this, I would read this as a signal that, like, well, I'm sending all these messages, but clearly people aren't picking up what I'm putting down because there's still a billion questions on it. And man, this seems so simple, but this is such an important point. Just how you format your messages internally is so key to getting your message read. If you just treat Slack like this is our work chat and this is our work channel, and hey, here's what's going. Here's an update on the thing that you asked. Like, whoa. Not only am I probably not going to read it because it's too long, but I like the formatting matters. Like break up so I love the we'll have the replay of this anyway, but I love this as a template, and it's like it's almost like anything in marketing. It's like with AI, with ChatGPT, right? Write a better prompt, you will get a better result. And so spend more time on that internal update, you will get a better result. My very first job was I was a PR intern, and my boss at the time, if I would email our clients, this is when people actually used email. If I would email our clients, I would get an email back from him. He would forward me the email and he would mark it all up with red text and X everything out and literally rewrite my emails and show me how to communicate. And that was my first dose of like, okay, what I say, the formatting matters here. Like he used to kill me because one of his biggest pet peeves was like a long email thread when the topic changes, but nobody changes the subject line. I just sent Ashley to the to the moon. Yeah, but like it's things like that. It's and then this is truly the skill of being a marketer, which is having empathy and understanding for your audience. And so like having the subject line means something, having the format means something. I think that's such an underrated ingredient in being a great internal communicator.
I see one of the comments popping up in the chat around thoughts on automating versus manually summarizing information that people need. And I do think this formatting piece is a place where AI can be unbelievably helpful. So we've built some Rovo agents that help people at Atlassian communicate in more structured ways. And this can let you take a lot of your kind of unstructured thoughts or the things you know about people that might not be as obvious or clear, because from knowing what their priorities are, what they actually care about, and then really quickly put that into a format that's amazing. And that's actually been one of my favorite AI use cases here is just like summarizing things isn't always super useful, but you often know something that is not explicit anywhere in your system. And so being able to add that context and then still get it to that really clear, concise point is such a helpful communication skill.
All right, I'm going to flip over to some of the questions that we have. How do you decide when something really needs a meeting versus when async would work better?
Practical things, but we can give the like real world answer and then the science answer, which actually should go together because
Yeah.
always the word is super applicable. So I'm like, I'll say it, and then you can be like, yes,
Yeah.
science.
Well, and I think the context of this is like I think we all believe that. I think many of us are like, yes, fewer meetings are better, but then what happens is everything feels like something we should meet about. And so how do you decide what is worth it? What's the best use of time?
Yeah.
Curious to hear how you all approach this.
So there's some clear there from my perspective, there are some clear binaries, right? If there is only going to be one person talking, it can probably be an async update. It can be in our case, a Confluence page or a Loom video. Like if it's just one person talking, it can probably be async. Um, if it is meant to just give a status update, it can probably be async. We have this functionality in Jira. It's called goals, as Molly alluded to, both from like a process and mindset standpoint, and then also it's built into our tooling where you can give a little update, and it includes an option to do basically a tweet length update. And so this is like the very quick, here's what's happening. If you want more context, look in a note. But if it's basically just saying, I did a thing, here's what shipped, here's what's blocked, that can probably be async. Two areas where I do think you need an actual meeting with the actual people. One is a concept that we call sparring. And if you think about the concept in, again, fitness enthusiasts, boxing, it's when two equals get in the ring and they go around boxing to actually improve their skills. And so when we think about this in the context of work, it's basically two equals getting in the ring and going around on an idea. And so we call this sparring. And the goal is to kind of figure out like, is this idea good? Is this process working? What could we improve? Where is it falling short? Right. And it's two equals. So it's not me criticizing you. It's the two of us are going to spar on the idea. That needs to happen synchronously because the whole point is the back and forth and getting that feedback in real time. The second thing that I would say definitely requires, a meeting, although I wouldn't quite call it that, is just connection. Shooting the breeze, having a coffee chat, building that trust and rapport, figuring out how did you, what did you do this long weekend? Oh, you're not in the US? Okay, how was the weather over it? I saw we've got Amsterdam in the UK, right? It doesn't make sense for me to Slack you and be like, hello, Dave, how was your weekend? And then you respond, it was good. And then I say, what did you do? Right? That's kind of weird in Slack. It's
Oh, I got one friend who always texts me. I got a friend who texts me and just says, "What's up?"
right?
I'm like, "What do you
Yeah,
mean, what's up? Say the thing."
yeah, just say it, right? So I think those are two areas: sparring and anything that's meant to kind of build that connection, rapport, trust, relationships. Like have a coffee chat, shoot the breeze. So Molly, I think any other areas that I missed, but those are two big binaries from my perspective.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And a lot of those are like the perfect decision rules and exactly what we see in research. I'd say we really need three ways to think about spending our time. I think we have async, right? Things where we're creating materials, we might be communicating, but people aren't responding in real time. Right. So that is the really good time to do some of your deep thinking, any deep thinking you need to do individually. So I think of that as async. Then we have meetings, which we're all familiar with. There's lots of ways to run them. There's good ones and there's bad ones. Unfortunately, there's way more bad ones out there than good ones. But those are like we come together, we have, a purpose or an agenda, some sort of goal for the time we're doing this thing together. We do Huge myth. Those really don't drive connection. So people sitting in those structured meetings, listening to you talk at them, not a connection builder. Doing work together, three times better and making you feel connected to those people. Like actually solving problems is what drives that piece. So just having people sit around together in a call is not actually good.
Oh, do you know what this made me think of? So this is great because now I can say that this is a validated, hypothesis. But I I've long been like I roll my eyes at like a new person joins your team and basically you spend the first 3 months just like in meetings and meeting people. And we saw something with like when we started hiring people at Exit 5, which is a very small company as an example. We didn't have a lot of formal onboarding. And so there's a girl on our team, Anna. She joined last year, and basically, she joined, and we immediately threw her in the deep end because we had this event coming up, and she needed to like work on the event. And that was an amazing, like from day one, she had to do the work and get in meetings. And that was the best way of like building team chemistry and bonding. And so, like, I've been at a large company where, like, I think you can fake your way around the office by being like the person that everyone wants to like hang out and have coffee with. But we saw this amazing connection by like, humans collaborating on a shared goal, and that is actually how Anna ended up getting onboarding and becoming an amazing part of the team. Is that am I making that up, Molly, or is that kind of what the science is proven out to be true?
Yeah, spending time together with people where you really are getting deeper is what drives that connection. And so I think that's exactly what's happening there is you're bringing her in to the real things, the things that are hard, things that are messy, where you have conversations that are meatier than look at these beautiful stats on my campaign or whatever it is
Sure.
in a traditional meeting. And we think a lot about building that into our days. And this is really where I think people end up kind of missing on what meetings need to look like. You need that sync working time. And so it's very normal within any teams at Atlassian to just have dedicated time to work on a problem together. And we see in the research too that teams that have bursty communication patterns, so meaning people are talking a lot, you're like going back and forth really quickly, you're doing that sparring that Ashley is talking about. I get a fast response and then have times where their communication goes really quiet, where they're doing that deeper work, that individual, hey, I took 12 action items from all these things I was in, and now I actually need to do them. If you ebb and flow between those times throughout your day, those are the most successful and productive teams. And so that's really what we want to build in for. And if you can start to spend more of your time not in those status update, sharing information kind of meetings, and actually with other people solving real problems, you'll feel way more connected to them. You'll build a lot more trust with your team, and it's way more fun. It's way more fun, and you get more work done. Kind of wins in all ways.
I like that as a framework. So for everybody out there, like if we could summarize that, basically any type of status update, anything that could be shared. It seems like the guardrails, like when you want to meet is something that you want to truly collaborate on, and let's use this time to jam on something together.
Yeah, exactly. Building together, going back and forth on ideas in a really dynamic
Yeah.
way.
Do you have
Um,
any opinions or data or just best practices on like getting everybody involved in those meetings? I feel like, and it's probably often men, like one or two loud voices on the Zoom call or whatever, sucking all the oxygen out of the meeting. And then I'm like, I'll just use Anna because she's on our team and I see her right here. Like, I'm like, oh shit. I try to like call on. I want to be like Anna. What like because it's just that the dynamics are always different. Like how do you bring everybody in to truly get the best collaborative meeting? And especially when you're not in person and you can't really tell someone's body language. I feel like if I haven't heard someone on my team speak on our meeting, I want to try to bring them in. But I'm curious if you have any tips for like actually fostering that collaboration.
Yeah. We do a lot of page led meetings, which is where someone will write any context, important things to know about the topic or decisions, perspectives, just the background everyone needs to actually be able to have a productive discussion or to create something together. We'll have someone write a Confluence page of that before we start the meeting. And then we spend a few minutes with our cameras off at the beginning. And what people will add comments, people will like ask questions in writing. We might do that with a whiteboard too. If you were going to make a page, you could easily have a whiteboard that lets people contribute. But having a couple different ways that everyone can get that same frame of mind and then also be able to add to the conversation even without taking up speaking time is a really, really great way to make meetings a little bit more equitable and make sure you're actually hearing from all the voices in the room. And then the facilitator can take what they have there and say, okay, great, this is actually what we need to dive into and cover. And it makes it easier to engage people in a way that also feels good to them, where they're not just like getting called on out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I am very extroverted and I tend to be a loud voice in the meeting. And I actually love coming in hot with no prep. Like I actually love
I
that.
like
It's
you.
fun
I
for me,
like this
right?
one. I like you.
I'm sorry, you want me to read 20 minutes of something to come in so you can ask me one question? I don't want to play that game. Like just plot me in and pepper me with questions. That's fun for me. I know I'm that weird person, right? There are a lot of folks on my team who are not that way. They like to absorb, they like to read the page, they like to come in, they like to know the questions ahead of time, right? And so I think to Molly's point about making sure that you're not just calling on people when that's not the best way for them to participate. And so doing the prep work, allowing them to add comments to the page if they have questions, and then as the facilitator, being able to say, I'm seeing some themes. It sounds like we really need to discuss this one particular area. Let's take a minute, write down your thoughts on this, and then we'll come back and share. So there is some of that give and take where not everyone does their best work on the fly. I do. I do really well in that environment, but not everyone does. And so making sure that if I'm the person facilitating the meeting, that I set it up in a way that actually accommodates the loud voices, the on the fly voices, and the people who need time to absorb. And maybe they are actually more articulate or more confident in writing. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways about all of this is having that flexibility of communication. It's not that videos are the best way to communicate or a page is the best way to communicate or Slack bullets are the best way to communicate. The reality is you need same as with external channels, you have to match the right message to the right people in the right place at the right time in the right format. And internally that might mean that you've got a Loom video embedded at the top of the Confluence page. You've got a little executive summary box. You've got a whole page of stuff that has expands, where if somebody needs more context, it's got the additional context that kind of showing the work behind the work. And then it has that ability for folks to leave comments or say, hey, I'd love to chat with you one on one about this work. And I'd love to get your feedback on it. Right. And so all of that facilitates the different types of communication that work for different personalities, different ways of thinking. And so I think that flexibility is one of the biggest things that having all of these different mediums allows. So yeah, Dave, as a loud person, I try really hard to be like, man, I've talked a lot. It's time for me to be quiet. Or it's really quiet. Someone needs to speak. Okay, I'll be the person who opens up that conversation. So
Nice.
Peter does take on a lot of that, um, kind of
Yeah.
burden prep.
I also think like just the idea that someone maybe I'm very type A and I am the same way that you are, but like if I get on a meeting and no one is clearly in charge of that meeting, I get stressed out because it's an expensive meeting, time is ticking, and so like I think if you're going to be the one that's going to set up the meeting, you need to basically be the one that's going to act as facilitator, run like look at the clock, involve other speakers, run things on time, but also a lot of things will come up when we start collaborating and talking with each other, kind of second and third level related ideas come up. And while those are great and easy to jump off on, I think sometimes I need to be like, hey, actually, that's great. But like, let's just focus for this meeting, let's focus on this. And like, you can share an update on that later. Like, because time is so valuable. It's very easy to go and spend 12 minutes, talking about the Red Sox game or whatever.
Yeah, and that's where I think some visual cues can help a lot too, especially in the virtual meetings of like, okay, we've got a parking lot. Great, you brought that up. Awesome. Let's throw it over here. Like,
Yeah.
how do you cue people that,
Right.
this is what we're focused on? Here's what we're covering.
Visual cues is like Ashley and Dave are just like squirming in their seats.
Or
'Cause
like,
they-
any,
yeah. All right.
any focus here.
Here's a question in the chat actually from Alexa, which is relevant. What about recurring team meetings? How many times a week Should we meet? Are daily stand-ups better, or or collaborative brainstorm sessions? Any kind of marketing team operating system stuff that you all have learned over the years?
Yeah, I would say actually I'm curious what your thoughts on and how you do this with your team. I tend to anchor more on project related collaborative time. So people that are working on a thing together, having that same time to have the quick back and forths, actually build some stuff. And then usually at one, depending on how much that full team actually works together, I would say once every week or every 2 weeks, it's good to have some sort of touch points. And we spend a lot of our time in the team that I lead doing demos during that. Because my org tends to work across a lot of different parts of the business. I'm sure this is true for many of the folks on this call too. Some of them are deeply embedded with engineering, others with research. And so just sharing what they're learning and what they're actually building in a more tangible way has been a really good use of that time.
Yeah, one thing that we do on my team is we actually rotate who owns the meeting each week, and it's their job to put together the agenda. It's their job to potentially find guest speakers. It's their job to prep the page, and they are in charge of facilitating. There's two reasons for that. One is to make sure that all of them get a chance to practice their facilitation and presentation skills. And it's kind of a safe place to do that. They know, like, okay, this is my week to do the meeting. In some cases, I'll suggest topics where I know what's going on across the team. And so I'll kind of say, hey, I would love to have, Molly present on this topic, or Dave, I'd love to focus the meeting on this. And you are the person who knows the most about that. So please facilitate. The second piece of this is it actually keeps the meeting from going stale. And we have a really great play on the Atlassian team playbook. It's free, it's ungated. You don't even have to give your email address, but it's called the ritual reset. And I think this is something that's worth doing quarterly across your teams to look at the meetings and figure out, like, is this meeting actually serving us? To Molly's earlier point, what is the goal of the meeting? Is it connection? Is it information sharing? Is it sparring? Is it brainstorming? Does it change each week? That's fine. But I actually have this happen on my team. We had gotten into this rut of just like generic icebreaker. Okay, everyone go around and say what you're working on. And I'm just like, I'm falling asleep in my own meeting, right? And
Right.
I'm like, this is clearly not serving anyone. And so I talked with a couple of the senior members of the team and I said, I would like to start rotating the meeting earlier in our tenure, the team was fairly new. And so it felt a little, um, like a lot of pressure to start making everybody rotate the meeting. But after we had been a team for 6 or 8 months, it was like, all right, we gotta we gotta fix this. So that really helped. And now having people rotate, we do meet weekly, but having the different folks rotate means that everyone across the team is able to share and facilitate, and it doesn't end up just being me talking at them, which I can do that in Slack. I can make them a Loom. I can write them a Confluence page. Like, I don't need to just stand up and talk in the meeting. So those are a couple things that have helped. The ritual reset, to just make it an open conversation about what the meeting should be and how it's supposed to help us. Rotating the meeting owners, and then you know deciding if weekly or biweekly is the right cadence.
Yep. So do you have any so I love that because it is very easy to just as a company goes on, we have this recurring Monday meeting and it's a ritual to have that and then nobody ever questions like why and it just kind of gets stale and you should stop doing it. But I'm just curious what actually on your just from a marketing standpoint, what recurring meetings do you have that are valuable?
So I do think our team meeting now is very valuable. And one of the things that I do now as the facilitator or the background facilitator is to help connect those dots. And so if it's not immediately obvious when someone is speaking or sharing or leading a discussion, I'll literally put in the chat how this connects to your work. Bullet, bullet, bullet. And everyone's like, oh, okay, now I know how to engage. So that meeting is very helpful. I do have some one on ones. Usually those are monthly, with my cross team counterparts. And it's kind of just like, hey, what's going on in your world? Or like, I saw this big reorg announcement. Like, what does that actually mean for how we will work together? And so that helps keep those relationships strong. And it helps me ensure that there's not going to be any issues that like come out of left field. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? A reorg is happening, or metrics are changing, and like I didn't know about that. Okay, let me just let's just talk and make sure that we're all on the same page. And then we do have some cross-functional team meetings that happen weekly or bi-weekly, where it is just a chance for uh, life cycle marketing, product marketing, content marketing, in some cases event marketing or performance marketing, to all get together and make sure that everybody is aligned on those shared goals. And so those do happen with a mix of like async, here's some status stuff, but it's mostly to discuss any blockers and if it's possible to eliminate those blockers on the call. So it's less go through this page of 20 bullets and just everyone read their bullet, and more, hey, I see that this one is blocked. It hasn't moved for a while. Why is it not moving? What needs to happen to get it moving? Can we just get it moving on this call, or do we need to solve it right now on this call? So those are actually quite helpful.
And on those cross-functional meetings, do they have a structure where you're leading with some type of scorecard or goals? I think a common example in our world here with Exit 5 is like marketing and sales is often collaborating. They're meeting, biweekly or whatever. And I found that it's often helpful to have some type of scorecard, which is like, hey, as a reminder, here are our like 3 to 5 key initiatives and metrics that we're working on for the year. Let's briefly touch them and then we can break out into something more specific. I'm just curious if you've found something similar, like at least anchoring the discussion with like, how are we doing on the things that we said we're going to do, and the SLA between sales and marketing, and then we can dive into anything specific.
Yes. So we do that. It depends per meeting. If it's, obviously if it's between CLM, PMM, and content marketing, it tends to anchor on campaigns. And so looking at if we've done webinars, how was the registration? How many questions do we get? Oh, we got 50 questions. There's some really good topics. There's a couple of themes. Should we turn that into a blog or a community post paired with an ask me anything session, right? So we'll do a bit of brainstorming based on the results that we've seen. So yeah, it does make sense to anchor it on, either to Molly's point, a project or performance or a campaign or something like that. But it just depends on uh, kind of what the focus is for those meetings.
I think one of the key things here too is anything that you do shift to async, so you're not having a meeting about it, that doesn't mean that you don't want that two-way communication. And so we really try to make sure that all of our tools enable people to still have conversation and discussion. We don't always need the answer or someone else's perspective instantly. Sometimes we do. If you're trying to move super, super fast, or there's like a lot of complexity or ambiguity, it's better to just live talk, or to even write live. But if you really are sharing things and you do actually want that feedback. So in Loom, I love how you can add all the comments, you can add emoji reactions. Like, you still aren't shouting into a void. You actually get that sense of, oh, what was confusing about this? Where were people like, yes, I love this. We're on track. Where are people like, oh, that makes me really nervous. I have this thing to add. And so when you think about shifting anything away from meetings, making sure that you're using tools that are going to enable people to say like, hey, I saw this, or I had this question, is really, really important.
Yeah, right. How many the amount of times that I've thought I did everybody a favor by making a Loom video instead of a meeting, and then I actually have no idea if anybody watched that video. And so I do something with our team where if I make a, say 2 minute, by the way, everyone said that I'm going to make a 2 minute Loom video, and it always ends up being like 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, you need to
It's
make it
like there is there is scope creep in like I'm going to go async, but now all of a sudden I just rambled for 12 minutes, and so like to the point about Ashley, what Ashley said in Slack about like preparing your message, I'm like, if you're going to make let's not get lazy with the looms now. If you're going to make me a loom, you also better come correct too with the
Those
format.
speaker notes help so much. Like, I make my team a Loom every Friday morning, just to check in. Like, hey, here's how we're doing. Here is some shout outs for stuff that's really amazing that we accomplished. Here's
Yeah.
a few things that are coming up or top of mind for me. And I pretend that they all left it drinking coffee, and many of them don't drink coffee. So I don't know what's going on with that. But
That's the
I
real
know
hot
this is
take.
like, I was like, be like, we're
No coffee.
caffeine. Right.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I wouldn't know
Not
about
sure.
that. Okay, I got a question in the chat actually. A couple. This one's from Mike. What are brainstorming meetings actually a good use of time? If so, what are some ways to make them more productive?
I think it depends on what the purpose is, right? From a brainstorming perspective, you have to have the correct problem to solve. Like if I just come in and it's like, how can we do better? And you're like, with what? What do just any idea? Like, I can sleep more and drink more coffee, right? Like I can balance my sleep and coffee and I feel better. Is that what you wanted? Clearly not, right? So coming in with the right questions. I also think that there's some really good brainstorming exercises that help you kind of get out of the box. One of those is an exercise that I love, which is basically like how to solve the problem the wrong way. What's the worst way to solve this problem? And give everybody a couple of minutes, put it on the whiteboard of if you were going to do like the absolute worst thing, what would that be? That helps for two reasons. One, it helps kind of break that ice that there are no dumb ideas, right? And two, you might actually find something in those ideas that could lead you to an actual solution. And so, well, for example, one idea, how do we make our meetings better? And a wrong idea would be just let everybody talk all at once, right? Where nobody can hear each other and there's no agenda and we all just start spewing things. That would be the absolute wrong way to make your meetings better, right? But it might actually help you dive down and say, okay, the meeting is too big. So maybe the reason everyone has to shout is because there's too many people in the meeting. So one way to make it better is to focus the attendee list, right? Like you can kind of go down that path. Um, so that's just like one example of a way I think you can make it better, but it's focusing in on the right problem and then giving people the space to say the dumb ideas by opening with that. And then I think the final thing I'll say about that is the format. Is it truly an open format? And there is blue sky. There's no budget requirements. There's no location requirements. There's no headcount requirements. Like, is it truly blue sky or are there constraints? And you need to be honest about those constraints. And so that's another piece of this that I find sometimes brainstorming either is completely useless because the ideas are just not feasible at all, or it's deflating to people because their ideas get shot down because there's not proper context on the constraints. So, a couple of things. Again, I have found brainstorming sessions to be useful when you have framed them up the right way.
Yeah, the thing I see go wrong with brainstorming most often is people are like, "Hey, let's think about the super important thing for 5 minutes." No, and these are not the right people to think about it, right? Like, those are our customers' biggest problems. Like, I don't know, internal team that works here, you're not the right folks to answer this. Like, we actually need to be pulling in information from other places. We need some folks that are in, on the
Right.
ground with our customers, like figuring out, I think to Ashley's point, what is the right problem? But also, who has good input for that problem? Get those people together or give people a little bit more time and space to get to gather the info you really need to come to
Yeah.
these solutions. And then 100%, yes, spend time talking about them, get creative, pull the guardrails off, put them in when to like actually refine things. Those are all fantastic suggestions.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. It's like that's back to the measure twice, cut once thing, which is like, yes, let's have a brainstorm about this team, but is this going to be something that we're actually going to be able to change? I've been in a company in the past where the CEO was very vocal, very involved in marketing, and I could go do a excellent brainstorming exercise with the team and come up with 3 ideas and then go to the CEO and they're just like, no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And then that is demoralizing because then I just wasted an hour of the team. We pitched all these ideas and we're not going to go do them anyway. And so I think let's do them if we can actually make change. Okay, this question's from Christine. Marketing team of one with a bunch of engineers at the helm. What level of info do you think is appropriate for people who don't really understand the nitty gritty of marketing and wouldn't be excited by, say, an increase in click through rate? LOL.
Spicy comment on this is why do you need to talk to them about this? Like, do they all need to know this? Or this is your CEO is an engineer and is also running marketing. And so keeps asking you, like, how is marketing going? Right. I find that this sometimes happens again with the information overload that we think we need to say everything to everyone all the time. And so because of that, you end up with people getting bombarded with information that they don't know about and they don't care about. But because you keep bombarding them, they think they should answer you. And so they come back with, like, basically, why do I care about this? And the reality is, you don't. and you're not going to take any action on it. So why am I telling you? So I think step one is, what action are they going to take? And are they actually asking you for information? Or you just feel, to Dave's point, like, well, they have this meeting every week and everybody's supposed to say something. So I guess I'll say something and I'll say metrics because engineering brain. Like, what are they actually going to do with this information? I think if you go with that lens, that will help you choose which activities and which metrics to bring up in, that meeting or the monthly business review, quarterly business review, whatever it is. But I would also question how many of the people that you're sharing this information with actually need that information to move forward, take action, make a decision, et cetera. So that's kind of my spicy take on that, is like, will people actually use this information? Do they actually need it? Are they actually asking for it? Um, and then if so, okay, then you can go down and say, here's how that connects to their work. If you have the ability to say the way this connects to your work is, so for example, you've got engineers, they've built out features, talking about monthly active users of that feature. The way that connects is obviously there's a revenue component from a business perspective, but it's also, you built this thing and people are actually using it. That feels good, right? So you could just come in and say, Mao is this, Mao is that, it's changed this much week over week or month over month. If I'm an engineer, I don't really cool, I guess, that we have people, right? But if you come in and you say, Molly, that feature that you built, when it first launched, within a week, it had this many users. And now 3 months later, it's actually grown by 100, 200, 300%. Thank you so much for building your feature. That is actually a helpful connection if you're able to make it.
Love it. Okay, let's wrap. We're gonna wrap up. We'll let people get a couple minutes back in their day. But before we do wrap up, Ashley, Molly, anything that you want to say about this topic that we didn't naturally come up with, we didn't get there, that you'd be like, damn, if we hung up before hitting on a point or two, I want to give you that opportunity now. No?
I do think that creating focus for your team is really important. And that's one of the ways you can be an effective leader is help people. The part of the problem with the information and the meetings is that everyone is trying to solve a zillion problems at once and they don't have clear ways to prioritize those.
Mm,
So the more that you can be explicit about how you think about decisions, how people should make trade-offs, how you're making those trade-offs, and really create some of that clarity and focus, your teams will do truly amazing things. They need the space to be creative. And when you're just stuck in back to back meetings and you get to 5 p.m. and you're like, oh my God, now I have all this work to do tonight, that is not where we're our best working selves or our best
yeah.
selves in any way. And so I think um, many leaders miss that the root cause of that is that they are pulling people in way too many directions. And your team will move fast if you create focus.
I love that you said that, because we often talk about how, yeah, it's so easy to talk about all the tactics in marketing, but so often the show me a successful marketing team and I'll show you one that has a very clear and often simple strategy. And so I read your answer there, not just as focus in like making sure your team doesn't have lots of meetings, but focus in like are we very clear in like the one or two key initiatives for marketing where, Tim Ferriss has this quote that's like, what's the one thing that makes everything else easier? And it's kind of like or Stephen Covey, Big Rock. And it's like, there's usually one or two. If you hit one or two of your goals in marketing, the rest of the stuff is going to take care of itself. And so I love that as a push. And then also for those listening out there, if you don't have that clarity from your leader, I think it is your job to push, if you want to grow in your career at least, to manage up and say, hey Molly, like I'm not sure what I should be working on right now. Like here's my list of 15 things. Like you can push and you can manage up to get that clarity and that focus. Ashley, what about you? What do you want to wrap on?
I think I will wrap on, again, similar to Molly's point of keeping the audience at the center. And I think marketers do a good job of that when they think externally. They don't always do a good job of that when they think internally. So whether that's communicating up to leadership, whether that's communicating across to your peers and stakeholders, whether that's communicating down to your team, who is that person? What is the message that they need to hear? How do they need to hear that message? And tailoring all of that communication, whether it's about goals, whether it's about tactics, whether it's about career growth, being very cognizant that you are delivering the right message to the right person in the right place at the right time, and adopting that kind of external care for your audience to your internal communications.
Love it. Well said. Okay, Ashley, Molly, we'll send out all the follow-ups. Everybody can go do the best thing you can do, which is go find each one of them on LinkedIn, connect, send them a message, be like, hey, I heard you on that Exit 5 live session. You were great. Thank you all for hanging out with us. I hope this was a useful and productive hour. If anything, to just give you the confidence to go and question the way that you do things inside of your company with the goal of being more efficient and maybe making your looms shorter, if that's one takeaway. All right, good to see you all. A bunch of regular faces here. Ashley, Molly, great to meet you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you all soon. Okay.
Bye. Thank
See you later.
you.